Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Hakim bin Muhammad Zain. My matric number 199611. I will present about a paper leveling index-based variable rate seeding technique for paddy. I divide my presentation into 5 sections. First, introduction. Second, methodology. Third, results and decision. Fourth, conclusion. And the last one, option. Okay, we go for the first section about the introduction. All right. This paper is about leveling index-based variable rate seeding technique for paddy. It was published on 14 October 2019. Special thanks to officers from Malaysian Agriculture Research and Development Institute, MARDI. Paddy is one of the major agro-food commodities in Malaysia with planted area of 688,207 hectares, a production of about 2.6 metric tons nationwide in 2016. The self-sufficiency level in Malaysia for this crop around 70% from 2008 to 2016, with average yield of 3.8 tons per hectare. Our National Agro-Food Policy 2011 until 2020 was introduced by the government to address 3 main issues. First, food supply and safety. Second, competitiveness and sustainability of industry, and increasing the income level of its target groups. The research using variable rate technology, VRT, that one component of the precision farming technology package. It's referred to technologies that are used to enable the variable rate application, VRA, of crop inputs such as fertilizer, herbicide, lime, and seed. In that case study of seed application, the land topography can be used as information to generate a variable rate application strategy. Land preparation before seeding is very critical because it is the first step in the determining the variable seed rate application strategy. The land leveling index is defined as the average numerical variation in centimeters between the proposed levels and existing average field level either before or after the completion of the leveling work. From the previous guideline, showed that 85% of the land shown certifies the leveling index 2.5 plus minus 25 millimeter, or 100% of the land shown satisfy the leveling index 5 plus minus 50 millimeter after final land smoothing. The research used MR219 paddy variety, which was used for the experiment. It's about 350 until 400 tillers per unit area were desired to achieve a potential yield of 10 million grams per hectare. The research objective was to develop a variable rate seeding technique such as that a more uniform crop establishment will be acquired and the minimum number of tillers per unit area could be achieved to offset the effect of soil surface unevenness of the potential yield. The technique defined a set of condition rules based on the land leveling index in order to generate a variable rate CD map. Okay, we go to the next methodology. That experiment was done on an 8.6 hectare paddy in the district of Yan located in the northern state of Kedah, Malaysia. Data was gathered during the main planting season between April and July of 2016. The experiment was done during the final tilling phase of land preparation. They using automated land leveling system that consisted of a controller and GNSS receiver to use to acquire surface head data. That machine system could produce an accurate of ±20 mm vertically and ±10 mm horizontally. The receiver was mounted on the rotary tiller while the controller was mounted on quad steel tractor. The GNS position correction of the sample data points was done by obtaining a correction signal from the real-time kinetic base station located at the known position. A variable rate applicator was used to apply the paddy 6. The applicator was mounted on a prime mover equipped with a GNS-enabled controller. They also use open-source geographical information system software was used to filter and condition the level data. The data was then used to determine the leveling index. Finally, a CD map was generated based on the leveling index. The process is described as follows. In the low spot, 6 will sink under the other surface, depriving them of oxygen, thus lowering their chances of survival. In the high spots, the 6 will lie above the powder surface. This prevents them from absorbing water needed to complete the germination process and also lowers their probability of emergence. In a variable rate treatment map, an additional 10% was added to the default seeding rate where an area is either low or high to increase the probability of seed survival. VRT seeding method or strategy utilizing the generated seeding map was compared with a conventional blanket seeding strategy. The seeding rate used for the blanket seeding strategy was 120 kg per hectare. The seeding rate for the VRT strategy also set to the base rate of 120 kg per hectare plus 10% variable rate for the high and low spots. Crop establishment was assessed 15 days after seeding to compare the performance of the two strategies. Each plot 50 points, 1 meter times 1 meter areas were chosen by crop establishment sampling. 50 points were collected such that the high, low, and even areas were represented by 5 points each. Every 5 points for each area in the plot were chosen at randomly by throwing 1 meter by 1 meter frame arbitrarily on the ground within that area. That experiment covered 19 plots, which represented an area of 8.6 hectares. Total 285 data of plant population were gathered. 5 plots were used as control plots, where the seed were applied using the blanket seeding rate. Another 14 plots used the variable rate seeding strategy. They're using one-way ANOVA conducted using the Minitab software package to compare the effect of two different seeding strategies, blanket and variable rate, on the crop establishment performance. Okay, now we go to the third presentation, results and discussion. The result of the one-way ANOVA conducted showed that there was a significant difference. I repeat, significant difference between the plant population means as the P lower 0.05 level for high, low, and even areas, where the VRT strategy was employed. In contrast, there was a significant difference between the plant population means as the P below 0.5 level for the different areas when the blanket seeding strategy was used. Taken together, these results suggest that the variable rate seeding technique developed in that work was able to achieve a more uniform crop establishment as compared to the blanket seeding method. 81% of samples in the high areas achieved the desired tiller population, around 350 until 400 tillers using the VRT seeding strategy. On the other hand, only 72% of samples achieved the desired population density using the blanket seeding strategy. 84% of samples in the low areas were within the desired range using the VRT seeding strategy, whereas 68% of samples achieved the desired population using the blanket seeding strategy. Lastly, 91% of samples in the even areas were in the desired range using the VRT strategy, as opposed to 87% of samples using the blanket seeding strategy, respectively. The result in the even areas was similar for both strategies. This was expected because the VRT seeding strategy used 120 kg per hectare as the rate for even areas, which is the same as the blanket seeding strategies. Okay, next we go to the conclusion. A variable rate seeding technique for paddy production was presented in depth research. The technique determined the variable rate seeding strategy based on the land leveling index of the field. Conditional rules were created to generate a seeding map. The treatment map was used by a VRT applicator for seeding. A comparison was done with a conventional blanket seeding strategy. It was observed that variable rate seeding with respect to the leveling index result in a more uniform crop establishment. It was also observed that the developed seeding technique was able to raise the probability of seed emerge, thus boosting potential yield. Okay, the last one, my opinion. Okay, my opinion, poor land leveling of paddy fields leads to irrigation problems which affect crop establishment and ultimately yield. One way to manage this is to vary the seeding rate according to the level profile of the land in order to get a more uniform crop establishment. Lastly, our farmers recommended to using legal rice seeds certified by Department of Agriculture, Malaysia. That's all from my thanks. Thank you.